Tonight on the Donlon Report, America pauses to listen to a Supreme Court case. When have you heard that? We're all over the legal and political angles of a big story tonight. We knew this was pretty much coming. Omicron is here in the U.S. We'll talk with our Johns Hopkins doctor about the president's plan to stop the spread. And New York begins a program allowing drug addicts a safe place to do their drugs. How does that work? And is it a good idea? Great to have you with us. We are live in our Chicago studios. The Donlon Report starts right now. Good evening. The nation pauses and listens to a Supreme Court case, of all things. That is the pulse of America tonight. Maybe it's our obsession with the news, or maybe this case is just too important for a lot of people to ignore. Arguments today in a landmark abortion case that could overturn Roe v. Wade, although we won't know that until June of next year. But today, it wasn't just a crowd of supporters from both sides outside the Supreme Court building, but actual listening parties across the country following the arguments and reading into what the justices were saying, and perhaps more importantly, what they were asking. Why are we so interested in a case that won't change anyone's mind? Well, maybe that's exactly why. Everyone knows where they stand on the issue and wants to see how this will play out. Here's what is at issue: a law in Mississippi that bans nearly all abortions after the 15th week of pregnancy. And that timeline, that viability, is at the heart of this issue. We're going to get into that in a few minutes with our legal experts. Most Americans are pretty clear where they stand. A Pew Research poll finds 59% of adults believe abortion should be legal. 47% in a Gallup poll this past May say abortion is morally acceptable. That's a record high. Still, there are indications due to the makeup of this Supreme Court that Roe could be overturned, or at least part of it could be chipped away slowly over time. What would that mean? Well, the average American would have to travel 125 miles to reach an abortion provider. That's 100 miles more than the current average. The number of people living 200 miles or more from a provider would go from 1% to 29%. 12 states would immediately restrict abortion, while others would likely impose significant new restrictions. Those are the numbers. We begin tonight again with the pulse of America and Kelly Meyer, who's been outside the Supreme Court all day. Kelly, what's it been like? I know the crowds were big.
Yeah, Joe, that's right. Right now, it's quiet here. You can see that it's calm outside the Supreme Court, but it was a much different story here earlier today. As you mentioned, there was tons of people here outside of the court on both sides of this issue. I believe we have some video here. You can take a look at people holding signs. They were chanting. Really emotions running high here outside the court. As we said, on both sides of this, we talked with those abortion rights advocates. We also talked with those who hope that Mississippi law you mentioned will be upheld. They are also hoping that the justices will overturn Roe versus Wade. That's the landmark decision that legalized abortion in the country. They're waiting for that result to come down. That won't be until later next year. But here's some folks we talked with earlier today.
Isn't that the point of life? Not thinking about self, but those to come. So I'm here for a future generation.
And so I think there's no compromise here on what we're looking for. I think what we want to do is make sure that those who need access to abortion are able to get it whenever they need it.
Just so many people out here today, Joe. I know you mentioned people watching around the country. All eyes are centered on this building behind me here. Quiet here tonight, but we are expecting those crowds to come back again when this decision is passed down here. We're expecting that late spring or early summer, potentially June 2022. Joe?
All right, Kelly Meyer live in D.C. for us tonight. Thank you very much. Joining us now for more, two legal voices, federal litigation attorney Lakai Vinson and constitutional lawyer Paul Lisnick. Paul, let's start with you. You could feel the gravity and the magnitude of this. It was fascinating to listen to. What's your headline from the arguments today?
Well, hey, Joe, my headline essentially is that the Mississippi law is most likely safe. One way or another, these justices, at least 6 of them, said they're going to protect that law, which for Mississippi brings that number to 15 weeks. The question is, what more will they do? You know, they could issue a decision that just says we uphold Mississippi law and they don't go any further. Doubtful that's what's going to happen. Do they overturn overturn Roe versus Wade. I think you're going to see in somebody like Kavanaugh and even Amy Coney Barrett today gave some indication that they wouldn't mind sort of somehow finding an incremental way to do this. The problem is the only way to do that, it would be to redefine the term viability.
Right.
So that it goes from 23 down to 15 and redefine it that way. Yeah. But that's not likely. That's why the reversing of the case is more likely.
Look, Kai, let's pick it up on that because this does come down to a couple of main points, and that's one of them. The timeline here in Roe v. Wade and viability. People might think, well, Roe v. Wade allows a woman to have an abortion, but it comes with that timeline up to viability, which is between 23 and 24 weeks. Mississippi law would take it to 15 weeks. Here's a little bit of the debate, Lakai, and then we'll get your response afterwards. This is Justice Alito today.
Are there secular philosophers and bioethicists who take the position that the rights of personhood begin at conception or at some point other than viability?
So, Lakai, how important is viability in this discussion? Because as I recall, the debate afterwards said that if this is upheld, then you'll have states that will go not 15, but 12, 10, or even down to 6 weeks, as Texas has already done.
So, Joe, that is very important when it comes to this case and cases that may come, as well as laws that may be enacted after today. The question is, when is fetal viability? The courts have decided, based on previous precedent, the Roe v. Wade case and upheld by the Casey case, that fetal viability is at 23-24 mark time frame. So if the Mississippi law is upheld, then the concern on the side of pro-choice puts you in a position where that timeline could move up. It could effectively move up from 15 weeks to 10 weeks. And states will do just that if this Mississippi law goes through. They'll have the opportunity to argue other timelines should be considered beyond that 15 weeks or before that 15 weeks. So when is the time of fetal viability? That is in question in this case and in cases to come.
Yeah, the other one, and you touched on it right there, Lakai, and I'll use that to jump off with Paul again for the next little bit that we want to listen to here. Lakai mentioned precedent. Paul, I always love when we learn these fancy legal terms like stare decisis. But you guys already know this, but this is what the lawyer for the Center for Reproductive Rights said about that, which essentially means precedent. Here it is.
The view that a previous precedent is wrong, Your Honor, has never been enough for this court to overrule, and it certainly shouldn't be enough here when there's 50 years of precedent. Instead, the court has required something else, a special justification, and the state doesn't come forward with any special justification.
Paul, what did you make of the arguments about precedent? 50 years of it in this case.
Yeah, so this is one of those cases that some would argue you would call super precedent. There's another special legal term for you. Because not only was it, passed in 73 as Roe versus Wade, but it got judged again in 1992 in the Casey case where the court could have dumped it, they could have done anything. And they said unequivocally, we hold on to this case. We recommend it. So really, when it comes to precedent, one of the questions that you saw Sotomayor and Kagan raise today is to say, for us to dump this precedent, talk about getting in the middle of politics, that is us. They talked about the stench of politics and getting in the middle of it. You had Kavanaugh, by the way, who said, well, maybe we should get rid of this and just go neutral on this. Let the states do what they want. Is that a neutral position? I think you would find Kagan and Sotomayor disagreeing.
Lakai, let me get you on something else Justice Kavanaugh said today. There were so many arguments that caught my attention. At one point, he said, you can't represent both interests here, the mother and the fetus. You can't, he emphasized. And the argument back was that Roe does represent both interests in the fact that it allows for the woman up to the point of viability, at which point it recognizes the fetus. So what did you make of that argument?
So, Joe, I think that is a reasonable argument. I mean, it's certainly a balance to be struck here. And that is what Roe v. Wade did. And that's what Casey did. It struck the balance between the unborn fetus and the mother. And that's why that point of fetal viability is 24 weeks. So at the point of 24 weeks, then at that point, it is definitely a viable fetus. And so at that point, the state does have the option to ban abortions. But up until that time frame, it's up to the mother. And that is what the Roe v. Wade case held on to, and that's what the Casey case told us as well. So I think there is a balancing act here, and the case law and the precedent has done both up until this point.
I just have a minute left with you both, so we'll give you each 30 seconds. Paul, we'll start with you. These justices don't typically show their cards, but you do learn a lot based on the questions they ask. Where do you think this is going?
Well, they don't usually show their cards, but today I think they really did. And as I've said, it's very clear that this Mississippi case gets saved. With regard to whether Roe goes, yesterday if you would have asked me, Joe, I would have said, no, he's that incrementalist who'll try and find a way. Roberts did not show himself to be that incrementalist today as much. If anything, nor really did Kavanaugh. So it may be an Amy Coney Barron. It may be when the justices all sit down and Roberts understands this is the legacy of his court. It is the Roberts court. He will try and find a way to bring these justices together. It's a tough one on this case.
What do you think, Lakai? What does this come down to in the end?
I think that it does come down to a super conservative majority on the Supreme Court. They have tipped their hand. We see where they're likely going. We know we don't have until June to decide or to determine what their decision will be, but I think that they tipped their hand today, and so we could see the overturning of Roe v. Wade with this supermajority conservative court.
Well, that's why we've all been watching today. That certainly shows the magnitude of this case. Paul Lisnick, Lakai Vincent, it's great to have you both starting us off tonight. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Joe. Happy Hanukkah.
All right, thank you. Same to you. Joining me now for more on this is how it all ties into the upcoming midterm elections. That's the reporter from The Hill, Julia Manchester. It's good to see you again, Julia. So this decision, as we mentioned here, is expected maybe in June, close to the midterms. What does it mean for 22 in the elections?
Well, it means that both sides of the abortion debate are really going to be galvanizing their bases before this decision comes out and potentially after this decision comes out. Remember, Joe, this all comes down to state and local issues and laws when it comes to abortion. So if theoretically Roe v. Wade would be overturned, you would see a number of states, and many of these states that are considered swing states in the midterms, like North Carolina and Georgia, move to outlaw abortion or put significant restrictions on the procedure. Then you would see Democrats in those states really move to galvanize their base and make it an issue. And you'd see Republicans do the same thing. So those are the states we're really looking out for, particularly in the South, where abortion has been a bit of a controversial issue for Republican majorities there. But we've seen Democrats in recent years make a lot of gains in those states.
Yeah, I mean, it's already impacting fundraising and endorsements, as I understand, based on your most recent article I read today in The Hill. But you're right. It seems like whoever loses, if you will, in this case will probably use it to say this is why you need to vote for us, because elections have consequences, as we know.
Absolutely. And I think the hearings we heard today and also the presence of Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett are a prime example of elections having consequences. Remember, President Trump made a campaign promise in 2015 and 2016 that he would appoint conservatives to the court, particularly pro-life conservatives. And that's what you have here. 3 pro-life conservatives on the court that we'll really be looking out for. But I think what worries a lot of Democratic officials I've been talking to today was the fact that other justices, such as Chief Justice John Roberts or Justice Samuel Alito, were starting to seem a bit sympathetic almost to the case made by Mississippi today. So that's something Democrats are very much primed and watching for right now.
Yeah, Julia, before we let you go, it's interesting, too, how high up the comments have come regarding this case where the arguments were heard today in the Supreme Court. President Biden doubled down. He sort of repeated what he has said in the past supporting Roe v. Wade. And former Vice President Mike Pence also weighed in on it. It shows you how high this goes.
It does show you how high this goes. And I would note that Vice President Mike Pence, the former vice president, I should say, is considered a potential 2024 contender. And his event that he held in D.C. yesterday, in which he addressed the pro-life movement, was held with the Susan B. Anthony list. That's a top pro-life, anti-abortion organization that works to elect pro-life candidates. And I will say they have a very impressive ground game in a number of these swing states, knocking on doors, trying to make abortion a major issue. So I think it's just evidence that both sides of this debate are gearing up.
All right. Politics covered tonight, courtesy of Julia Manchester from The Hill. Good to see you, Julia. Take care.
Thank you.
Here's a headline that won't surprise anyone. The Omicron variant is here in the U.S. We expected it, and now it's official. So what's being done about it, and where do we draw the line between personal freedom and public safety? Just some of the issues we'll ask our doc just ahead. Also ahead, smash and grab robberies rampant across the country. We'll talk with the police chief here in the Chicago area who had to deal with it recently, twice as a matter of fact. What's he doing to address it? And don't forget, you can follow us on social media at the Donlon Report on Twitter. And to all our viewers out there, Well, Omicron is here. The U.S. has its first confirmed case of COVID caused by the new Omicron variant found in a fully vaccinated patient in California. The individual traveled from South Africa on November 22nd, has mild symptoms, and is now self-quarantining. Here's what Dr. Anthony Fauci had to say about it today.
You really can't take anything away from a single patient. It is we feel good that this patient not only had mild symptoms, but actually the symptoms appear to be improving.
Dr. Amish Adalja of Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security joins us now. Doc, it's great to see you again. I guess we knew it was coming. This much isn't a surprise. But what we don't know yet is probably a little more alarming than what we do, I guess, which is my question. If it seems to be not quite as serious in South Africa, why are experts so concerned about this? Is this common sense, or do you think it's an overreaction at this point?
You have to draw a distinction between being concerned and taking this threat seriously and panicking. And I think some of that has gotten blurred. I think it's very important that we understand this variant because it has so many mutations in it that are likely to cause problems for our vaccines, cause problems for our monoclonal antibodies, and maybe perhaps be more transmissible. But I think we have to kind of temper that with the fact that if you're fully vaccinated, it's likely that, yes, you might get a breakthrough infection, but it's likely to be mild because it's very hard for any variant to erase everything a vaccine does for you. So that's how I look at this. But it is still important that we understand how far this is spread and really run down these mutations and see how it's changing the function of this virus. But this is the normal, the new normal. We're going to see new variants arise, and we're going to have to be prepared to deal with them. And I think that our vaccines do hold up against what matters, serious disease.
But we don't really know at this point, right, Doctor? I mean, at this point, when will we get some definitive answers, do you think? Is it more severe? Is it more contagious? Are the vaccines still as effective? Might there have to be a different booster?
We'll likely have more answers within about 2 weeks when they can do all those experiments, understand how well the antibodies generated by vaccines neutralize this variant. But we're getting data every day. We're looking at what's happening in South Africa. We're seeing hospitalizations go up there, but it tends to be people who are not vaccinated. So that really coincides with or integrates with what we've known about these vaccines for some time, that even if a variant is able to get around it and cause a breakthrough infection, the T cells, the antibodies, all of those help to prevent you from getting severe disease or needing hospitalization. And I think if you step back and ask, what's our goal with COVID? It's not to eradicate or eliminate it. That's not possible. It's to tame it, to make it more manageable. And I think our vaccines do that. And we may need to update the vaccine to get more protection against all breakthrough infections. But I think we can be assured that our vaccines are still going to have some impact on protecting us from the severe consequences of this variant.
Yeah, I mean, the flu vaccine, as I recall, is only, like 40 to 50% because they're never quite sure what the strain is, I guess. We can kind of fall back on that as well. Let's talk about the CDC quickly, if we can here, Doctor. Considering more tests for incoming international passengers and now requiring airlines to disclose passenger names who were recently in southern African countries. Where is the line on this, in your opinion, between public safety and personal privacy?
Well, what the CDC is trying to do is keep track of these variants and try and understand where they are and how much they spread. I think it's important to have situational awareness of new variants and where they are and how contagious they are, and try and intervene as quickly as possible. I think it is always this kind of line between privacy and public health that's hard to know exactly where to draw the borders. I think that this is a reasonable thing. I think that when you travel, if you have a contagious infectious disease or been exposed to a contagious infectious disease, it's important to be able to be notified and to tell those people to get tested to make sure that you're not spreading it to other individuals. I think all those people that are coming back from South Africa should be getting tested based on what's going on there. I don't think this crosses any kind of line that I'm particularly worried about, but I think we will get to a point where this becomes a little bit more normalized when we're dealing with Omicron or whatever variant it is, that we'll start to learn how to risk calculate better, and it won't be this 5-alarm fire. But I think for right now, until we get these answers, I think some of this is justified.
But I guess the other question is, it's in other countries where we're not doing this, Doctor. I guess, from Italy or Israel or wherever, there are other countries where we know it is, and we're not doing this same sort of, passenger checklist, I guess, if you will.
That's an important point, because we know that this was spreading in the Netherlands even before it was even discovered in South Africa. South Africa and the southern African countries are probably where this may have originated, just based on the epidemiology. But yes, this is everywhere. And I think this is why the travel ban really makes no sense. The travel ban during the Trump administration made no sense. This one makes no sense at all as well, because it's not really going to prevent this from coming here. And it only impacts certain countries when Many other countries have this, and it's very leaky, and it actually has put South Africa in a bad position where they're having trouble even getting the reagents to do the tests on the experiments that we want to know the answers to.
What do you tell people, Doctor, who are planning to travel this holiday season?
The best and the safest way to travel is to make sure that you're vaccinated and the people that you are with are vaccinated. If you're going to a place where there's high prevalence, you could, and you're very risk averse to getting any breakthrough infection, masks will work, rapid testing will work. But this is going to be something that people have to learn how to risk adjust to, because this is going to be a risk for some time. And being vaccinated is the best way to protect yourself from severe disease from COVID-19. And remember, even though we're talking about Omicron, we're awash with Delta all over the world, and Delta is still killing people everywhere. So that is still a major threat. And the way we prepare for Delta is very similar to the way we prepare for Omicron.
Security infectious disease specialist at Johns Hopkins University. That's Dr. Amish Adalja. It's always great to have your voice, Doctor. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Some breaking news now from the White House on mask mandates. Mask requirements for travelers on airplanes, trains, buses, and at airports and train stations will now be extended through March of 2022. Again, mask mandates to remain for all travelers on planes, trains, buses, and at all airports and train stations through March of next year. Some powerful images and stories coming out of Oxford, Michigan tonight, where a fourth student has now died in that school shooting. We'll take you there live on the ground and also talk about the warnings that may have gone ignored. That's next. Plus, New York becomes the first city in the nation with supervised drug injection sites for addicts. Is this actually a good thing? We'll look at both sides of that debate coming up. We turn now to the tragedy in Oxford, Michigan. Yesterday, 15-year-old Ethan Crumley has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder after killing 4 and injuring several others in yesterday's school shooting at Oxford High School. We have team coverage following the latest now on this. NewsNation's Brian Enton is going to join us from Parkland, Florida, and we also have Kelsey Kernstein live in Oxford, Michigan for us tonight. Kelsey, let's start with you and this 4th victim who died today. What do we know about the 4 who died?
This was a 17-year-old boy. His name is Justin Schilling. We're also learning that he worked at a restaurant. He was an avid bowler. We're also learning that friends said that he was a devoted friend as well as a pleasure to be around.
Kelsey, we're getting a peek here now at some of the 4 of the victims who were killed in this. There were several other developments I wanted to ask you about today, starting with the additional charges. We mentioned the murder charges, but what about the terrorism charges? What can you tell us about that?
Well, the prosecuting attorney is saying that this is definitely an act of terrorism, saying that these kids experience chaos, screaming, hiding under their desks. Also, they can't sleep, they can't eat, and that they never want to return to school again.
Okay, and what are you hearing about bullying, Kelsey? Was this an issue with this particular student before the shooting?
Well, you know, you have the sheriff's office saying, I'm going to actually take this out of my ear. You actually have the sheriff's office saying that no, this wasn't an act of bullying. They haven't even seen any bullying so far in the case. But then you have the neighbors that I spoke to today. One neighbor telling me across the street saying she's known that Ethan Crumley was severely bullied. Also saying that, I asked her what was he bullied about, and he said the way he looked. She would see him on the porch crying because he was bullied.
All right, I'm sure we'll be learning much more as this case unfolds. Kelsey Kernstein, thank you very much live for us tonight in Oxford, Michigan. Let's head now to Parkland, Florida, where NewsNation's Brian Enton has more on red flag warnings in school shootings. And Brian, this is another thing we've heard a lot about beforehand. Were there warning signs? And the officials down there have been saying, be careful.
Yeah, the officials here have been saying be careful based on what they know. It's been interesting following what's happening in Michigan, though, Joe, because the sheriff there has said all day long they had no red flags. They did not have warnings. Nothing was sent to law enforcement. But we learned today that the 15-year-old and his parents had to have a meeting at the school the day before the shooting over what officials are calling concerning behavior. We have also talked to students at that school who told us they saw on social media over the past several weeks threats that there was going to be a school shooting at their school, and that one of those students was even so scared that she decided to go home for the day from school because she saw things on social media. So there were obviously threats floating around. Whether or not they are specifically connected to this student, we still don't know. Listen to what the sheriff told us on Morning in America this morning.
We don't have any information as it relates to previous threats from this individual about this incident that came to us. None that came to the law enforcement community that we're aware of. We are trying to run down the rumor that some people knew about something, but may not have shared it, certainly with us. We know for a fact it wasn't shared with us.
And Joe, there's also this thing called red flag laws. These are interesting. There was a red flag law passed here in Florida after the Parkland massacre in 2018. Basically, what that means is that if you are concerned that someone could harm themselves or others and they have guns, you can call police. Police can get a judge involved and they can temporarily take away someone's guns so that they can't hurt themselves or others. There are 19 states that have passed these red flag laws. Michigan, where the school shooting happened yesterday, is not one of those states.
Brian, we did have a late report that this student who's accused of the shooting in Michigan actually made a video the night before. What can you tell us about that? Have you heard anything on it?
Yeah, this is new. This came out today in a court appearance with that 15-year-old where the sheriff said this was definitely premeditated. They have come across all sorts of evidence that this was planned, including a video, the sheriff says, was made the night before the shooting where he talked about how he wanted to kill his classmates.
All right, I'm sure, as we mentioned, Brian, there will be an awful lot of evidence to go through on this case over the days and weeks ahead. Brian Enden and Kelsey Kernstein, thank you both for the reports tonight. Let's pivot now to another story that we're covering out of New York. 2 new drug injection sites are open now in New York City, hoping to prevent overdose deaths. The nation's first overdose prevention centers are allowing users to inject drugs under medical supervision. The already hefty number of drug overdoses have skyrocketed since the beginning of the pandemic. In 2020 alone, more than 90,000 people died from drug overdoses across the U.S., 2,000 of those in New York City alone. Our affiliate in New York talked with a participant of the program where people are already waiting outside to get into the clinic. Here to talk more about this is NewsNation anchor Rudabeh Shabazi. Now, on the surface, it's easy, Rudabeh, to say, what in the world? Wait, they're doing what? They're allowing them to go somewhere and inject drugs. But what's the purpose? What's the reason behind it?
Well, they're saying this is backed by over 100 sites around the world. They've been doing this in Canada, in Australia, and around Europe. They say that they have 30 years of research in the books that demonstrates this works. And they say the main goal is to curb drug overdose deaths, which have been skyrocketing, as you just mentioned.
We just set a
If you
record.
think about just in New York City alone, 1 person every 4 hours dies of an opioid overdose. So they say that's the main concern here. They say that it works. They provide clean syringes. They monitor people who go and do drugs.
Right.
They don't provide the drugs.
Right.
They allow people to go there and do it. It's kind of a BYOD, if you will.
Right.
So they provide syringes and they have people there and they have Narcan and other things there to administer in case of an overdose.
Well, this is another good point, because you've got a very up close and personal opportunity to reach these users and these addicts and hopefully maybe get them help or get them off of the drugs. They're there, you can do it.
And that's the other thing. That's another thing they try to do is provide them resources to get off drugs, drug prevention resources, counseling, etc. So they do all of that. The the health commissioner says, you know, this is backed by more than 30 years of research. They say that this will actually also curb drug use in public places,
Right.
which the city and the state, they say, has been asking for. They don't want to see people overdosing in the streets and
Right.
leaving needles around in the streets.
Which is where most, the homeless stories that we've all covered, they want to stay in their tents on the streets. They don't necessarily, I wondered, will they go to a facility like this to shoot up in public at a place? And the answer, based on the lines anyway, is yes. So what are critics saying?
So critics, we actually have sound from a critic, a congresswoman who doesn't want this. They say this is essentially a government encouraging people to go and do drugs, that these are creating hubs. And if you look at the one where we just saw the lines of the people waiting outside, there's a school right across the street. So do you want your kid going to school right across from this? They say that this is encouraging illegal activity. It's encouraging drug use. It's not prohibiting drug use
Right.
and preventing drug use.
But it's a very emotional issue. You can tell. I mean, when you hear some of the people who are involved, especially the supporters who see where this is working, they get sort of choked up and emotional about it because it's a viable alternative to what we're seeing on the streets, which is thousands of people overdosing and dying.
Yeah, and they say that it really is the bottom line, that's what they need to, be focusing on. We actually have sound from one of the directors at the center. Take a listen.
It's been really hard on the staff and the participants over the years to lose so many people unnecessarily. And I just think that we think of them and we remember them when we opened our doors this morning, all of the people who didn't make it.
So you see how emotional
Right.
they get. Those are the people who see this firsthand. They also have testing for fentanyl, which we know has been a huge issue. It's been laced with other drugs. If people don't even often know that they're, ingesting
Right.
fentanyl. On the other side, we have Representative Nicole Maliotakis from New York, who says this is a terrible idea. She's been trying to get the Justice Department to intervene and curb all of this. But as you know, de Blasio is termed out. This is his last
Right.
year in office, and he's been trying to effort this since 2018. So take a listen to what she had to say.
We need to fight this issue at the core of the problem, which is where are the dealers coming from and where are the drugs coming from? And we know the answers, but the city and the state are not taking action to resolve this, and neither is the federal government.
So that's where we are. We have both sides of the story, a controversial issue. Of course, if your kid is going to school across the street, you might not
Right.
like it. But if you're someone who sees people overdosing in the streets,
Right.
you might think it's a good idea.
All right. But it's open either way today with long lines in New York City.
Yeah.
Rudabeh Shabazi, thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Well, we keep asking what can be done to stop these mobs of looters pulling off smash and grab robberies. We're going to talk with a police chief who's dealing with it firsthand next. Plus, the Women's Tennis Association takes action against China following the mysterious disappearance and controversial reappearance of a tennis star from China. More on that ahead. On Balance with Leland Vittert starts at the top of the hour.
It is true.
He
We're
joins
here.
us now. So let's start with this story in China. The Women's Tennis Association now says they're canceling all tournaments in China until this gets settled, right?
Yeah, exactly. Leave it to the Women's Tennis Association, of all people, to stand up to communist Beijing. And it all revolves around Peng Shuai. And I have to hand it to you guys, because the Donlon Report was one of the very first television programs to do this story. Mid-level tennis player, won a major as a doubles player.
Right.
Not a big deal.
She won Wimbledon, I think, as a doubles, right?
Yeah, exactly. But what's amazing about her is that on Weibo, which is the Chinese social media service, she accused a high-ranking Chinese communist official of sexual assault. And she was then disappeared, quite literally, by the Communist Party. Her social media posts were deleted. About 2 weeks later, there was a hostage video, if you would, of her laughing with some girls at a tennis tournament and having dinner, and then she's been incommunicado since then. And the Women's Tennis Association has stood up and said, until you produce her and allow us to talk to her free of any kind of minders, we're not going to have tournaments in China. And ordinarily, this wouldn't be seen as a really big deal, except you've got to look at what Beijing really cares about, which is the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing. And if all of a sudden this is the break of people finally standing up to China over their human rights abuses and starting to pull things that matter from China, it could be a big deal.
So what happened with this interview that apparently she had with the IOC, the tennis player, right? But that even then, it was like just still images of it were released. I don't understand why they don't produce her.
Well, one of a couple of reasons. Maybe one, they can't. Maybe because she's been hurt in some way or injured. Maybe number two, they're actually worried what she'll say. And if if there's a video and somebody from the IOC says, so you were lying when you said the vice chairman raped you?
Right.
And she goes, well, that kind of lets the cat out of the bag, doesn't it? So, the Chinese don't really want to, and they believe in controlling everything. They don't want to produce her for some reason. Maybe they have not re-educated her enough.
All right, what else do you have tonight?
Hey, so we're talking about Alec Baldwin. He's got a new interview out with
George
ABC.
Stephanopoulos.
Yeah, George Stephanopoulos. And what's amazing is in the interview, he basically says, even though I shot and killed a woman with a gun that was handed to me on set, I didn't pull the trigger and somehow the gun went off, which always brings up that famous moment at the police academy or in boot camp where someone says, oh, okay, we're going to put the gun on the table and see how long it takes to go off. Right. Guns don't go off when the trigger isn't pulled.
He's saying he didn't pull the trigger.
He's saying he didn't pull the trigger, but there's all sorts of questions here. Why was there a bullet in the chamber? Why didn't he check it? How does a gun go off if you haven't cocked it? This is a revolver. There's a lot of different very big questions here. The bigger question for the legal side, okay, should he be in jail? A lot of people say yes. But the PR side, is he doing himself any favors by this interview? So we're going to dig into that there and talk about the MLB lockout.
All right, good. Top of the hour, it's On Balance with Leland Vittert. Thanks for the
See you
update.
then.
The smash and grab at a Louis Vuitton in suburban Chicago, one of many across the nation recently, and now some law enforcement calling these flash attacks a plague. Chief James Kruger of the police department in Oak Brook, Illinois, that's where that Louis Vuitton was, and is in his city. And Chief, a lot of people saying this is going to spread nationwide. In fact, it already has. You've seen it twice.
Well, it would just happen to be a very interesting circumstance where we had two of these incidences occur over just 1 week's time. We've had them cyclically maybe every few years or so, but this certainly was an anomaly as far as our community is concerned.
What do you think is behind this, Chief? Is this a matter of thieves taking advantage of a situation? Is it an easy mark? Is it they know that more than likely they're going to be able to hit and get out without getting caught? What's at work here?
Well, I think there's a few things going on here. Certainly, I think there is some issue on whether or not they believe whether or not there's going to be a consequence for their actions.
Right.
Certainly, we've seen different levels of jurisprudence depending on what jurisdiction you're in on how serious they take retail theft crimes. But certainly, these issues of organized retail theft and some of these rings have seemed to find their way not just in our community but in the region. And we're looking at it and working on it on a regional basis.
So what can be done as we look at this, Chief? I'm sure you've asked and tried to address it yourself. What can you do about it?
Well, for one thing, certainly on a macro level, we're looking at enhancing security and law enforcement presence in our shopping areas, especially during the Christmas shopping area. But we're also working with our state partners. Our Attorney General in Illinois has formed a regional organized crime task or retail theft crime task force that we're working with so that way we can coordinate efforts with other jurisdictions. There is also other regional players getting involved, and we've also met now with all the other major communities in our area that have suburban shopping centers or large malls, so that way we can all work together and are looking at some of the same issues.
There's not much security can do either, Chief. That's the other thing as we watch this. I mean, you know, what are they supposed to do when you have 20 or 30 people in there with crowbars? And you could see the one in that one video at the Louis Vuitton where the security officer was trying to chase after them, but there's really not much they can do. What are they allowed to do? I mean, from a use of force standpoint, what can they do?
Well, especially with a private entity, in that case, that security guard made a valiant effort to at least try to retrieve some of the property. But you're right, Joe, when you have 14 people and there's one of you with no backup, no radio, not calling, being able to call for help like an on-duty police officer, they're fairly limited. And of course, the use of force, and believe me, we're thankful that deadly force wasn't employed here. But certainly, the force that's only necessary to stop a threat and we're trying to stop a property crime would not warrant the use of deadly force, certainly in that circumstance. So they're limited on what they're able to do. And at that point, It's protecting the patrons. It's protecting the employees, and trying to have the situation come to a culmination without any injuries.
Right. You mentioned the consequences. What are the consequences in Oak Brook? What would be the case if these folks were caught?
Well, certainly in DuPage County especially, that would be a felony retail theft, and they would go to the county jail and be held and eventually be prosecuted for felony retail theft in DuPage County. So, we've anecdotally been in, when we've arrested other individuals for light crimes, have believed that they would just be charged with a misdemeanor because that may be different in other jurisdictions, or they may have different thresholds, where our state threshold, certainly a situation like this warrants felony charges.
Yeah, it must be frustrating, Chief, because to your point earlier, I mean, I think these suspects know that the odds are sort of in their favor by the time they pull this off, and there's that brave security guard in pursuit there. You guys are, they're long gone by the time you get there.
Well, and that's why most of these are within 30, 40 seconds. And they know that's what they're trying to do is come in, swarm the place, and leave as quick as they can before security or law enforcement can react. And that's why, in our case, we're increasing our law enforcement presence in the mall, and especially in some of the high value retail establishments. And I know we work very closely with mall ownership and their security efforts in order to try to at least deter it.
Oak Brook, Illinois Police Chief, and we might add interim village manager, James Kruger. Thanks for the time, Chief.
Thank you, Joe. Take care.
You too. President Biden addressing the supply chain crisis today, and we have an American Snapshot to go along with it as well. That's next. President Biden spoke today on the supply chain issues and said he is certain shelves will be stocked for the holiday season.
My administration has been working with many of the CEOs and others to keep these goods moving through our supply chain to ensure the shelves are stocked heading into the holiday season. The CEOs I met with this week reported that their inventories are up, shelves are well stocked, and they're ready to meet the consumer demand for the holidays.
The president also said his administration has been working tirelessly to get items off of container ships, like adding shifts 24/7 to get items off those ships and onto the trucks and delivered. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.